Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the one-shot Wonder Mahler cycle. I was sitting around noodling through my record collection, as I do regularly, and it occurred to me that we could actually put together a really fine Mahler cycle conducted entirely by artists who are not known for conducting Mahler, who made either only one major Mahler recording or maybe one or two or three, but only one of them was any good. But they're just not doing cycles, and they're not into Mahler, and it's wonderful that they're not, because I really believe that if you have no feeling for certain music, you should not play it. It's plenty of stuff you can do that you do have feeling for. That's all just fine. It really is. And in this particular case, there are some amazing performances. First-class, wonderful performances by people who you may not know even made Mahler recordings. But they did, and they did a superb job. So, without further ado, let's get started. And, once I get done with my one-shot Wonder Mahler cycle, if you have one, feel free to propose it. But remember, all the performances have to be first class. They have to be really, really good. None of this just stick it in the list because it exists business. They have to be things you are willing to swear by. First, Symphony No. 1. This is a wonderful performance. Riccardo Muti of the Philadelphia Orchestra on Warner, EMI. Muti didn't do any other Mahler. And this is a wonderful Mahler first. And I'm so glad he did this wonderful Mahler first and nothing else. Because unless it's going to be fabulous, who needs it? Especially at this date. At this stage of the game. Symphony No. 2. Here's a real sleeper. Leonard Slatkin with the St. Louis Symphony on Telarc. Now, we could have picked one like Blomstedt, for example, but he's been doing more Mahler lately. He did the 9th. Slatkin did the first, actually, for Telarc also. Slatkin has never been a Mahler guy. He's not ashamed to say so, but he made a Mahler, too, that just wow. Everything fell into place, kind of like the Blomstedt, actually. It's fabulously well recorded. It's thrillingly exciting. It's wonderfully well played. And it's totally out of print. I mean, you got to find it. It's just amazing, considering the fact that no one's ever cared about it. I just find it shocking because it's as idiomatic and brilliant a Mahler too as you are ever going to hear. It's really in sort of the Bruno Walter style. That is, it's on the quick side. It's not the most gut-wrenchingly crazy, but boy, do they play. And it just went marvelously. And that Mahler 2 really deserves to be in the collection of serious Mahler people. Maybe some century it will get reissued or something like that. Symphony No. 3, Esa-Pekka Salonen with the Los Angeles Philharmonic on Sony. This has all kinds of individual touches, like the bass drum doubling the timpani at the very end, which I saw him do it. I saw him conduct this in New York. And I remember certain critics having their noses up, getting all frumpy, saying, oh my God, he added a bass drum at the end. Well, I mean, this has to do with our recent talk on trumpet parts in Beethoven's Eroica and Mahler's dictum that if something doesn't sound right to you, change it. Well, he did. And it sounded fine to me. And there are a lot of other things in this performance that are very, very exciting. And it's splendidly recorded. It really deserves a mention now and again. He also did the 4th in Das Lied von der Erde. Let's not forget. The 4th was quite good. Das Lied, it was okay. Not as good, I think. And the 3rd, though, this was his outstanding Mahler performance. Next, Colin Davis, never a Mahlerian. Really not. But he did a splendid Mahler 4. Really first class. He also did it the 8th, I think, didn't he, for RCA? With Bavarian Radio. And it's terrific. It's a wonderful 4th. It's one of the best 4ths out there. It's as good as anything anybody else has done. It has some very unconventional tempi in the adagio and some really characterful moments. And again, it's very well recorded. Davis's career with Bavarian Radio was very on again, off again. It wasn't his best period, but he made some outstanding recordings there. And this Mahler 4th is one of them. Very interesting, actually, and it sort of got buried right away because it wasn't followed up by anything. Then Daniel Barenboim. Well, Barenboim, he conducts Mahler. I saw him do that Mahler cycle that he shared with Pierre Boulez at Carnegie Hall. Most of it sucked, frankly. with the Staatskapelle Berlin, although they recorded the 7th, and that was quite fine. But his great Mahler recording is the 5th with the Chicago Symphony, the one that nobody gets right, the one that's almost impossible to do. Well, they did a dynamite Mahler 5th, stunningly recorded. It was recorded on tour, I think in Cologne or someplace like that in Germany somewhere. And maybe like hanging out in Germany is good for Mahler's 5th Symphony. I don't know. But it's a tremendously fine performance by a conductor whose Mahler just is not terribly idiomatic for the most part, or compelling, at least in my experience. After Barenboim, number 6, Thomas Sanderling and the St. Petersburgh Philharmonic, formerly the Leningrad Symphony, the Leningrad Phil, whatever it was called. Boy, is this a hot Mahler 6th. An RS. I don't even know if that label still exists anymore. I really don't. But I've seen the performance kicking around now and then. It's a knockout. It's a knockout. The playing is fabulous. Oh my God, the playing is marvelous. The orchestra sounds like it's absolutely having the time of its life doing this piece. I mean, they get to just cut loose. And Sanderling really, really knows the piece. He knows it very, very well. And he hits all of the, cool sonic moments, the weird Celesta passages and the cowbells and sledgehammers and all that stuff. It's just wonderful. It thrilled me when it came out, and I hope it's still around somewhere. You may recall Thomas Sanderling, the son of Kurt Sanderling, in case you're wondering, and the brother of other Sanderling, Stephen Sanderling, whatever his name is. But he also did a Brahms cycle and some other things for that same label. Not as interesting, I might add. But this Mahler 6th, wow. It just blew me away. Symphony number 7. Oh my goodness, who wants to do number 7 separately? It's one of those symphonies that really sort of occurs mostly among Mahlerians in their larger cycles. And Vladimir Ashkenazy did a bunch of Mahler. He did. He did some with the Czech Philharmonic, as in this case. And this number 7 with the Czech Philharmonic on Exton is one of his best Mahler performances. It's not my favorite. It's lacking something in atmosphere, but it's really, really well played and stunningly well recorded. And he makes this really bizarre kind of spooky expressionistic symphony sound fairly normal. And you may not want that. You may want it to sound bizarre, like Michael Gillen, for example. But there's something to be said for the more sane and healthy approach, which is what this is, especially when it's played so well. It's pretty splendid. It really is. Then we've got Kent Nagano. Well, he certainly hasn't been doing Mahler cycles all over the place, and he did the 8th, a singleton Mahler 8th. Can you believe it? I mean, the 8th actually gets done sometimes by conductors who like gargantuan choral works, like the Berlioz Requiem or the Gurrelieder or whatnot, and stuff like that. And so Nagano did the 8th with the Deutsches Symphonie-Orchester Berlin for Harmonia Mundi, of all labels, and it's a beautiful, sensual, decadent, lush, yummy performance. It's a little bit on the slow side here and there, but it sounds just marvelous. It's beautifully done. It's very soulful, and I enjoyed it. I still do. I mean, I could imagine something a little bit more incisive, a little bit more, alert in terms of tempo, but wow, if you like a big, heavy-duty Mahler 8th, one that really, really brings out the Gustav Klimt gold highlights, those sort of things, the sensual and lusciousness of the music. Really, really beautiful. Really beautiful. Number 9, here's a real outlier. Alan Gilbert with the Royal Stockholm Philharmonic on Bis. This was a 1010 at Classics Today. In fact, most of these are reviewed at Classics Today. You can go read the reviews and sometimes hear samples too for some of them. This is an amazing Mahler 9th. It's as good as anything out there. Absolutely, hands down. Fantastically well played, incredibly dynamic, powerful, emotional, impulsive, spontaneous, really, really a first-class performance that also gets no love. It gets no mention. Nobody seems to care. But if you love Mahler 9th, you're going to want to hear this one. You are really going to want to hear this one. I am not kidding. And finally, how could you have a Mahler cycle, even a one-shot wonder Mahler cycle, without Das Lied von der Erde? And there is a great one sitting out there from A.G. Owe, and the Minnesota Orchestra on reference recordings with John Villars tenor and Michelle DeYoung mezzo-soprano, two wonderful singers. Michelle DeYoung particularly is a Mahler specialist, and she's never been better recorded than here. It's a reference recording, stunning sonically, beautiful interpretation, lovely playing from the orchestra, a first-class production in every way. And I recommend it very, very highly. We were just talking about that when we were discussing Das Lied von der Erde reference recordings. I mean, if we had to do a modern reference recording of all the ones that have been coming out, I would probably pick this one because it's that good. It really is. And there you have it. 10 symphonies or symphony-like objects, all done by people who don't normally do Mahler, but who, when they did do Mahler, really did some of their best work for Mahler. And that's a reason to mix and match your own one-shot wonder Mahler cycle. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care.